I'll call the meeting to order. Richard, do you have the roll call? And if we'll please stand, we'll have the invocation by Father Doug Hale from St. John's Episcopal Church.
Let us pray. Almighty God, bless all elected officials and employees of the city of Bandon, that they may do their work in a spirit of wisdom, kindness, and justice. Help them use their positions to promote the general welfare of all the people of Bandon, whether residents or visitors. Help them make Bandon a place that is welcoming, safe, and pleasurable, so that as a result, people may say, God has touched this place. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And now we'll have the pledge led by our council president, Madeline Seymour. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Now we're going to have our police chief, Corey Dillon, will be introducing our new officer.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor and councilors. I appreciate you giving me a couple minutes of your time. In keeping with the tradition of our close-knit community, we have a new officer on the force. We're very excited to have her. Her name is Emma Owens. Come on up, Emma. She comes from Coos County Sheriff's Office, where she was a dispatcher for 8 years. We hired her January 3rd, and she is exceeding expectations and doing extremely well. And without further ado, you want to talk for a minute and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, hello, everybody. So I'm Emma Owens. I was raised in Coos County, so it's definitely home. I am very proud of this area. I've always been very interested in emergency services, so I jumped right into emergency dispatch as soon as I was able to. And in my time at the sheriff's office, I've always enjoyed working with the citizens and the different agencies here in Bandon. The last couple of years, I've been thinking about law enforcement, and Bandon just kept coming up in my head as a really good place to learn how to do this job well, especially since the community, from everything I could see, seemed very supportive of law enforcement, and everybody seemed to kind of have the same goal and how to approach things. So I'm very excited to be working in this city and with this agency.
Well, welcome, and we're
Thank
excited
you.
to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And I like one of your stuffs. It's very good.
Okay. Good.
And I understand your family's in law enforcement as well, right?
Yes, my dad is a sheriff's deputy with Coos County. He started a couple years ago and was a reserve before that. So,
Good. Oh,
Yep.
and Chief, I like our new truck. Took me by surprise the other day.
Good.
I thought it was a state policeman driving into Ray's until I saw the sign and I went, we have a truck?
Well, the way it worked out, we were in desperate need of vehicles, and with the supply chain and stuff with COVID, we couldn't find any. And Sergeant Lynch and I were talking, and I was like, we could really use, to be able to get down on the beaches for search and rescues and just picking up bicycles and hauling things here and there. So we went with that, and seems to be really, really working out well.
So Sergeant doesn't have to pick up prisoners anymore. There's no room, right?
No, there's room in the back.
Oh, there is. Okay.
Yeah, we have to, he's got the germ thing that we're working through. We're gonna get him some seat covers, so.
Okay.
But yeah, no, there's room in the back for prisoners.
Oh, okay.
It's a 4-door.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, welcome, Emma. We're
Well,
so
thank
glad
you.
to
Welcome.
have you.
Welcome. Okay, the first item on the agenda has to do with the American Rescue and Recovery Act expenditures. Dan?
Madam Mayor, councilors, this is 5.1.1 in your packet. It's probably worth actually looking at this one. We got $699,217 in rescue plan funds. I just wanted to go over what we spent to date and talk with the council about some things that we might do. These are proposed. And the actual expenditures, I'll get into in a little more detail soon. You can see there's police department incentive pay. That was a fairly standard use of rescue plan funds to help law enforcement for the overtime and all the work that they did during COVID. The truck that you mentioned,
Mhm.
was paid for with rescue plan funds. We had to update our decades old phone system,
Finally.
which caused us, causes a number of problems. I think, back one of the outages we had earlier this year, people had a hard time getting through and it was a matter of time before it failed and people couldn't contact us anymore. We are doing and are going to continue to do a little tsunami siren maintenance. I think 2 of the towers need some new batteries and new drivers, whatever a driver is. I think it's something that makes a speaker run. But we
You don't
need
have to
new
replace
ones.
anything in the one that's by my house. I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
So would my dog.
We had these nice folks came out from Boston and who do it all over the country and looked at them. We're generally in pretty good shape for a few more years, but there's a few things that need to happen. We've spent 3,000 to date on a couple of workforce housing issues, with some planning issues, a little bit of engineering on that site. I've got, I guess at my desk, I have the details of how these were all broken down. The wastewater data system, our entire data system, I talked about this at the last meeting, just fried
Mhm.
when we tried to use the backup generator. So we have this nice new cool thing with a TV screen and it's got graphs on it. You can just push buttons and
I bet the guys are happy.
make things work. Yeah, it's kind of cool. And if you've ever been down in there in the plant office, you've seen the big, the great big buttons that you push and
Mhm.
the dials. Better data allows them to do a better job. Ultimately, it saves some time and money and overtime if that system works. When we got that streaming current meter a couple of years ago in the water plant, it cut back the overtime there dramatically because it automatically adjusts
Oh,
chemicals based on what's coming through the plant instead of having to manually do some of that stuff.
oh, good.
So today we've only spent 175,000 out of the almost 700,000, leaving 523 remaining. I'm proposing another truck. Most of our cars are 100,000 miles or over. Of the 15,000, there's 50,000 in the budget right now. 15,000 will mostly or more or less make up for the difference.
Oh, okay.
So that 15 will just go on top of the 50 that's already in the budget.
Okay.
Water line loop from 20th to 17th. There's a large section of industrial land up there, or commercial land, I'm sorry, that's got a fire flow problem.
Mm.
There's a bunch of lines that get small and they all dead end. This line would connect the water main in 20th back down towards 17th, which would provide fire flow for that entire area, including the grocery outlet project. We're proposing that as an expenditure. The next item is the next stage of our groundwater investigation. This is looking into whether a well field will work for the city of Bandon as an alternative seasonal backup water supply. As we know, that's about a third or less of the cost of the off-channel reservoir project.
Right.
But we've got to spend a little money to take it through the next stage and work with the state and see where we are with them.
Okay.
This next one came out of Dana, Kristen, and I went to the South Coast Housing Conference, I don't know, week and a half ago. Very well attended. Dana and I presented about accessory dwelling units, but we learned a lot of things. And one of the things we learned was Gold Beach has a really innovative program, right? Everybody thinks
Yeah.
about their accessory dwelling unit program.
Yes.
Okay.
She gave a whole.
Okay.
On it, yeah.
So Gold Beach has a program for ADUs, accessory dwelling units. There's 2 pieces to it. One piece is they have a grant program to incentivize the building of ADUs. And then the other piece is that they have gone to Curry County and gotten 2 sets of plans pre-approved. So all you've got to do is go to your contractor with these set of plans, contractor gives you a bid, you can build the project. Now, none of them have been, done to date, but what we're proposing is that we could do, Bandon could take some of our rescue plan funds and do an ADU grant program. We'd find some more money. This number, I'm thinking it should be 55,000. And what it would go for would be systems development charges for an ADU. So STCs now per ADU are $5,500.
Okay.
In my view, I'm not a big fan of SDC waivers because there's no free lunch. We got to pay for water. We've got to do these things. What we could do then is say the first 10 to come in, right? We're trying to get people,
Yeah.
let's get them over the hump. let's start to show that we can build it in Bandon. People are gonna see it. It's gonna, it'll work and we'll try to get this thing kicked off. So the proposal is we would do the first 10 to come in. The ARRA money would pay their SDCs. So there'd be zero SDC charge, but we wouldn't really be shorting ourselves because we'd be paying we're paying our SDCs with that money. There's 250 here, which is sort of just the remainder that we can use for other workforce housing projects, either this project we got with the school district, or potentially the project that Mike Kaiser has. The view of that is what's the biggest, or other projects, but what's the biggest bang for the buck we can get for that money?
Right.
In terms of workforce housing and how fast can we get it? So that's just what's left. Let's continue to commit that to that use. Pardon me. And then we've got some remaining work on the tsunami towers, another 17,600 to actually 6,000 was to have them come out and take a look and do an assessment of all the towers. The 17,600 is the remaining work to be done, which is new batteries and new drivers.
I haven't added this up. Do we have any money left?
No,
Oh. I want new chairs.
we'll find a way to buy new chairs.
I'm just kidding.
Chairs.
Don't kid, I'm serious.
Oh,
Yes.
very serious.
Very serious.
Very serious.
I guess one question I have, the police department incentive pay, that wasn't then a sign-on bonus.
No,
Because I just wondered if they had to pay it back, if they're, do we do any kind of do we make them, I mean, when they last a few months or, do we make them pay that back or anything back or?
yes, I think it's a 3-year, $5,000 bonus with a 3-year commitment, I believe.
Okay,
Okay.
I think we've discussed modifying it for, if they say 2.5 years, we'll sort of make a deal with folks. But it's a $5,000 bonus to stay 3 years.
and then they get that at the end of the time when they've completed or,
No, they get it up front, but they're required to pay it back. And they do.
okay.
So-
Interest.
So we've had 2 officers,
Hurry.
we've had 2 officers that have paid it back so far.
Jerry wants interest.
Oh,
I missed that as usual.
I got a question.
Yes.
On your, the SDC. The SDC money you want to add to, has that been a problem? People come in, they said, I'd really like to do this, but I can't afford the extra $5,000 for the SDCs.
we've had people that have balked at that. It's. I mean, whether it was STCs or something else, it seems to have worked a little bit for Gold Beach and getting some people that were I think there's a lot of people kind of on the fence about doing this. And one of the reasons I think that we do the first 10 is tell people, let's go, let's get going. We don't have enough money to do it forever. But if we can get the first 10, maybe that'll generate some interest. And if we get builders educated and builders have built those prefab plans, all of a sudden they've learned. And it may be easier and quicker.
Sure.
Maybe we could bring Tammy, maybe Tammy,
Yeah.
the mayor of Tammy Kaufman would come and
Mhm.
she gave a great presentation and in fact, I brought home all the paperwork.
And
that
we
she
talked
gave
to her
us.
quite a bit afterwards.
It was really a
Where was this at?
At the last
small
LOC.
city.
Oh, the small cities meeting.
Oak Hill.
Okay.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the proposed expenditures of American Rescue and Recovery Act funds.
second. Been moved by Josh, seconded by Jerry, that we approve the proposed expenditures of ARRA funds. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, the next item is to award the bid and approval contact for two MG water reservoir improvements.
This is the long-awaited seismic valve project
Finally.
for the water tank. The parts are actually coming in now
Oh.
from Bath, England.
Oh, wow.
And as we've discussed, while we've got the tank taken down to do the seismic valves, it's now time to strip and recoat the inside. So that's what Schedule A and Schedule B is. We've gone to bid. We have recommendations from the engineers to award to Elk Mountain Construction and Purcell PNC LLC. So this is the 2 motions, motion to accept all proposals and a motion to award to Elk Mountain and Purcell.
And we didn't have anybody local that was qualified. I know
For the bid.
one contractor's out of Washington. I haven't seen the other one, seeing as our papers are backwards.
That wasn't a consideration
Okay.
in,
just
in the,
no.
in their review of the bids.
Okay, all right. Madam Mayor, I make a motion to accept all proposals.
Second.
Been moved by Madeline, seconded by Brian, that we accept all proposals. All those in favor? Unanimous. Second motion?
Madam Mayor,
Sorry.
I move to award the contract to Elk Mountain Construction and Purcell PNC LLC.
Second. Been moved by Brian, seconded by Jerry, that we award the contract to Elk Mountain Construction and Purcell PNC LLC. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, now we're under discussions, utility rates and sustainability.
This is a follow-up to what we discussed at the last meeting about utility rates. In thinking about it a little further, we did some investigation of the costs of holding the election in May. They're actually minimal because there's already an election being held. So what we're proposing is that we come back together on February 22nd to discuss placing measures on the ballot for May. I think we'll have a package to you well in advance of the meeting of what we're proposing. Generally, I believe it will be wisest to do them as specific dollar figures rather than percentages. I think it's easier for people to understand. They will be modest, in line, and probably somewhat less than the inflation just over the last 2 years. But we would do water, sewer, and electric as three separate measures. That would give us the information on the outcome of those before we actually finally finalize our budget in June.
Okay.
What day is February 22nd?
Yeah.
It's a Monday.
It's
It's
a
Monday?
Our meetings are always on
Wednesday.
I
Mondays.
know, but
I don't think it's a Monday.
I don't think it's a Monday.
Hospital's the
That's
23rd,
it's like a
third.
Ash Wednesday.
Ash
Oh, it's
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wednesday or Thursday.
We could do it on that Tuesday as well, if the council would rather. Monday's a holiday.
Oh, forgot
No.
President's Day.
Well, I don't want
You don't want to do it on Ash Wednesday?
Wednesday, no.
You don't
Oh,
want
in
to,
the afternoon is okay, yeah.
What were you talking about, a 1:30
What?
meeting?
Yeah,
I
1:30.
just knew it wasn't on Monday.
That-
The 21st or 22nd. If Tuesday's preferable, it's fine with us.
Well, whatever.
Jerry,
I just knew it
would
was
you like to do it Tuesday or Wednesday?
either one. As long as I know it wasn't on Monday. I just wanted to
All
clarify.
right, Wednesday, Wednesday.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
the 22nd at 1:30, we'll have a special meeting and short work session.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just couldn't.
Yes, please.
Could you put a little poll like you've been doing before, asking about like,
I-
if we wanted to have
Is this
the
my phone?
utilities commission set our rates instead of the council, see what the feel on that is?
Yeah.
Cause I think it'd be interesting to see on that, if it's still,
Mhm.
65%, no, I'm fine, but. Because I think maybe if we went to something like that, and it wasn't
Mm.
us setting the rate.
Yeah.
Making the case for somebody else, maybe they would. I'd buy into it, I don't know,
Chris, is your mic on?
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
No, I don't get.
Oh, there we go.
there we go. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilor Paul, that's a great idea. And I think after we do this, kind of looking at this, it's just kind of a short inflation catch up to keep us on our feet while we look at these long-term issues. The city of Canby works that way.
Or
Their
they,
electric utility is run by a board that is appointed by the council. I don't know what their terms are, but they are independent. They're independent of city council, and it's an independent entity with its own
interesting.
supervisor. So Canby Electric is, it's the city, but it's not. It's a separate entity. So they're separate in that sense from their rate setting authority.
But they're appointed by the council.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'd like to remind everybody, as I mentioned at the work session, put your thinking caps on and try to think about what kind of campaign we're going to run,
Got to run one.
because it's going to be a tough
Yep.
uphill struggle no matter what.
Yes, it is.
The more we can get the word out, the better.
Yeah. All right, the next one, 5.2.2 says committee opportunities. Is there a,
Yeah, there should be a sheet in there for
Yeah.
you.
Please, Sam.
It's a great one.
oh, wait a minute, never mind. Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I guess the question I have is how much money, since they are telling us the composition of particularly of the housing one, how much money does this mean we're getting that we have to jump through these hoops?
Oh, I mean, we had to, so we had to put together a committee composition just to determine how we might, because you're talking about the housing needs analysis, right? Where it says there's these different people on here. We actually proposed that as part of our grant application to DLCD. Part of the requirement was that you did have to have specific DLCD priority populations. And then we could also set our own local priority populations. So that's broken down in there for what those are. But we got on that grant $40,000 from the Department of Land Conservation and Development.
Okay, so so then our local priorities would be seniors, families, and local workforce.
That's correct.
Not the ones above. I don't know where we would find two out of the above.
Yeah, sure. They, so we already filled all the other roles. We did find someone, who I believe fills the local workforce, and renter sort of profile. And then, someone else who qualifies as a senior.
So have these appointments already been made?
We are looking for tonight an appointment of a city councilor to each of these
Yeah, but the
committees.
committee composition, the planning commissioner's been appointed, the priority population's been appointed, the real estate housing organization and the member at large, they've already been appointed.
Yeah,
We
we,
haven't seen it.
That's interesting because what does the charter and the say about appointments?
Yeah,
well, I could be wrong, but I am pretty sure that ad hoc committees, we can just
Okay.
assign people to. We're asking for
Okay,
a
I
city
didn't see
councilor to
that.
serve on each of these.
These are folks who are gonna meet 3 times,
Yeah, and we can, yeah.
3 times only as an ad hoc group.
Okay.
It didn't seem to, it doesn't seem to us that that's really, other than the city councilor. Probably not efficient use of city council's time to figure out that people are gonna meet 3 times.
okay,
I'd like to volunteer myself for the Housing Advisory Committee.
Well, that would be good.
yeah.
Okay, and then the other one would be the transportation system plan. That one meets a little bit, meets 5 times and the period is over 1.5 years, so it's a little bit more. If anyone's really interested in transportation.
I don't want to commit to that long.
Yeah, great. And then the one other thing that isn't in here is that because Peter Braun is no longer a counselor, we do have an opening on the CCI as well. If there's a counselor who's interested.
How often do they meet and when do they meet?
We're meeting every other month right now, or we're trying to. We're still sort of getting off the ground, but our next meeting, I think, is scheduled for March.
You're not gonna be here.
I won't be here. I was on that, I was a liaison for that before
Oh, nice.
it disbanded, but I won't be here in March. So. Yeah, okay, I'll do it again.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. Okay,
Gate Park.
State Park Project.
That one's me too. So we are reviving a project that's been listed in our plans for a long time. It's come up at Parks and Recreation meetings numerous times over the years since I've been here since 2016. So we learned that we can work with American Ramp Company, which is part of Sourcewell, which is the sort of, what is it called? The
Cooperative purchasing.
Thank you. Cooperative purchasing agreement. So we started to talk to them about getting an idea of how we might envision a new skate park for City Park. We initially looked at doing a brand new skate park like what you've seen up and down the coast in other cities. Those are very expensive, somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. So what we looked for was a cheaper option to still get something installed. And I think, because you probably saw the stuff that was in the skate park before that has disintegrated over the years. The materials that they use now are much better. So what I've attached for you here are some plans that would go on the existing skate park pad. The cost is about $100,000. But we did talk to some people in the community who are really interested in skate parks. They helped us come up with this final design after going through a few of them. We are going to be looking for grants, community donations, and potentially some urban renewal funding. So I wanted to bring you this plan early to get you an idea of what we're looking at and take any comments if you have any.
Well, it'll definitely be an improvement, but what about, is our insurance gonna go up? Because this is a little bit more elaborate than what we have now.
That's something to look into. I will find out.
Yeah.
Well, 100 years ago, when I was mayor, I proposed the skate park. And probably didn't get reelected because I wanted to do it up at the baseball
Oh,
field.
that's right, up in the stand.
Everybody said, we don't want it up here. Anyhow, Billy Olson, who was, had South Coast Concrete, pretty much did it all for us for nothing. And put in ramps. The kids destroyed them in a very short order. So I would be very cautious about doing this until I saw what kind of, if they had any kind of warranty or something, because it didn't take them long. It did only a couple of years. They just tore them apart.
And that's
We did, yeah, we did actually ask about that, especially because of seeing what happened to the last one, just even from the weather alone and seeing
Yeah,
what happened.
they were
with
just
others.
destroyed.
I will check on the warranty. They did think that in other cities, they've lasted for 10+ years before you have to do some like resurfacing, repainting it with different the special paint that they use.
And then
I'll find out.
looking at this, it looks fairly simple. Couldn't those be done out of concrete?
Well, we looked into the concrete stuff and it's just way more expensive.
I know, but I mean, just a simple ramp layout like this with concrete instead of just wooden ramps or whatever.
I can look into it and see if concrete.
I don't think it would cost
stations.
$100,000 to, or $500,000 to, I say these are 100,000. But if we could do them in concrete, they'd sure as heck last a heck of a lot longer.
Well, that's what we're looking at doing, like the sort of second phase 2 would be doing a more permanent concrete solution. But I will see if there's any company that does it. I think the benefit of working with the like American Ram Company is that it's the competitive process. So we don't have to go out to bid on it. And I don't know if there are other companies that are making concrete fixtures.
Well,
Dana?
I think a concrete, a mason could probably form them pretty simply. I mean, there must be a way where I could do sand and then, just thinking, if you do it, I'd like them to last.
Mhm.
That's all.
Dana,
I'm
of the average of 10-year cities, were any of them coastal cities?
That's what we asked about, and they did say there were coastal cities like down in California. I said,
So much
and it's a
different
little
than Oregon.
different. Yeah, so, we're not sure. It may be that we'd have to repaint the
Well, that
equipment more often, but
paint would be a given. I'm just wondering if they would break down with our weather.
well, I think they have a, sorry, maybe paint isn't the right word, but they have a special coating on them that apparently you can reapply as needed.
Okay.
Do you have any idea about how many people use the skate park?
Right now,
Yeah.
nobody, because there's
Nobody.
like, or I still see people out there doing stuff and
I think it would
it's sort of sad.
I
Yeah,
know.
there's not a
How
lot.
about
Like a piece of concrete that you roller skate on right now,
Mhm. Yeah.
With my two kids, they try to go down there. They love to go to the skate park, but things have been, as you said, dilapidated, removed. There's not much there. They choose to want to go to Mingus out in Coos Bay because there's a little more activity. So we're all definitely excited about this idea. Whatever the material may be, just something to replace what was there is exciting.
They've got a nice one in Myrtle Point.
Yeah,
too.
Myrtle
Yeah,
Point has a
yeah.
beautiful skin. I don't know
Mhm.
how it's held up over the years, but very expensive bowl and,
Yeah. As Dana said, that's about a $500,000 project. The next, so we will inquire, I recall having conversations with them about the warranty and
Yeah.
what that was, but I don't remember now what they said, but we can definitely look into that before we go
right.
and commit our renewal funds to this. The other exciting piece about this to me, though, is these folks do what's called a pump track.
Mhm.
And a pump track is kind of like a big skate park. Only there's big ramps and curves and, but you can go on it with roller skates, scooters, skateboards, bicycles. Look up like Hood River Pump Track and you'll get an idea. But that's the newest thing. These guys have got some really, really neat pump track ideas and pump track designs. And in fact, if you build your pump track to a certain specification, you can get on a race circuit
Oh, boy.
which would be kind of a tourism
Town, yeah.
a tourism attractor for the city. Anyway, these are the folks that also do that. They are members of the Sourcewell Cooperative, so we can contract with them without having to go to competitive bid. But that'll be I think the next step for us as a city in terms of becoming a little more youth friendly
Yeah.
would be to kind of get on this cutting edge and have a pump track. There was an attempt at a pump track that someone built. It's right next to there with a little, if you've seen it, it's dirt. You can ride a bicycle around. The idea of a pump track is that by pumping your legs. I mean, this is what I'm told. You don't have to pedal. You can pump your legs and actually,
You're using the motion.
yeah, use that motion of the hills of the slopes to get around it. And they're pretty cool.
When we build it, right?
Yeah, they're wheelchair available as well. So yes.
It's been a youth-oriented project. I think Rotary Club would get behind something like this. So I
Yeah,
think
they would.
Yeah.
that's kind of where we're at up there. So what,
Mason's
someone
fine
could
as well.
approach the Rotary Club.
I'd be happy to.
And
Thank
wasn't
you.
Angela,
In fact, we can even use you as a program.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's lovely.
and didn't Angela Cardis, wasn't she, in the beginning, she was asking about it?
I think so. I mean, we've had, and Patrick Solandro, who is on the, I think all three, the city council, the
on the
commission and the
council, yeah,
Parks and
yeah.
Rec commission. Yeah, he was also trying to revive it when I first got back in 2020. So I think I've seen it like kind of come up and leave,
Because
disappear.
I think Angela Cardis would be a good person
Angela.
to talk to.
Okay.
And Wild Rivers too,
Yeah.
Yeah, Wild Rivers, yeah.
with Whiskey Run, those same people that run the Whiskey Run trails loved, especially the tourism.
Oh, that was
I know a lot
Wally
of people that could do that.
That's
Love to
great.
stay here and do that here.
That's a great idea to have a pump track as a
Yeah,
accessory sort of thing to
Mhm.
that'd be
The-
huge.
the Whiskey Run
And
trails.
we have the real estate.
We do.
Yeah.
We had a beautiful park. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
All
for the
right.
Positive feedback.
Okay.
The next item, temporary guidelines for RV occupancy on private property. I have a few questions about this, but we'll hear from you now.
I'll make it quick. So we did, I forget how many months ago, we drove around just trying to see how many people had RVs that were plugged in. We do have code that does not permit long-term RV occupancy outside of a registered RV park. So we wanted to see how many RVs were being used. That was over the summer. We did send out a mass mailing, just letting people know, because we didn't know if they're just plugged in or, you know, someone's cleaning it out or if someone's living in there, letting them know what those rules are. Recently, we've gotten a couple inquiries about people wanting to have more long-term temporary living opportunities in an RV. Specifically, we've gotten a couple questions about my kids want to work in town. They don't have anywhere to stay. We'd like to put them up in our RV. We have to tell them you can get one month permit per year, and that's all you're allowed for a residential visit for a long-term living. So heard a story on NPR about how Springfield is allowing they're doing a temporary restriction of the, temporary suspension of the restrictions around RVs to allow people to use them as a residential occupancy. And they're now requiring a permit so they can track how many people in town are having to resort to living in an RV because they don't have somewhere better to live. So I just thought I would bring it to you as something that might work here in Bandon, even on a temporary basis. I think initially Springfield did it for 6 months and they've extended it twice now. So what I included in here for you is their, I think, wonderful guidelines that sort of show you what you still can and can't do. There's still some restrictions. They want to make sure life safety is taken into account. Any question?
Well, I guess my concern would be as tight as communities like Coos Bay and North Bend tighten up their restrictions and are trying to run them out of town, I don't want us to be the welcoming community. I understand taking care of our own people and people who may want to work here, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about who this might bring to town. And
I think that's fair. I think in Springfield, how they did it was you can only have them on private property. They still have to be parked and shielded in a certain way, and you can't collect any money for it. So they were not trying to monetize it. It was in a sense, trying to get, family members or other people that wanted to work in the community. a
And I
place
can
to
understand
stay.
that. I mean, I understand there's a crying need for housing.
Mhm.
Is that something we could put, like, if you were talking to having a permit, if somebody comes in, they have to prove that it's a family member?
Well,
I
it could
don't
be a
know.
friend of the family too, though, Chris. if
Well,
they
that's,
needed a place to
that's
live.
true. I don't know,
Yeah, because how would the enforcement go
No,
on the restrictions, making sure that, there's no derelict RVs coming in?
Richard's gonna be busy, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's still kind of like restrictions in place. So we do get calls right now on RVs if they, are parked incorrectly. Or another one that we'll get is like if they're up on cinder blocks, we know they're not movable at that point. And we do take care of those as those come up. So yeah, it would definitely be a little bit more code compliance, but I think it would also give us a better idea of how many people are actually living in there.
That's what I was thinking. It would give us a great idea of
Mhm.
how many people actually need that for workforce housing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and they have to be drive, right, and so sprinkled,
Yeah.
they're gonna be drivable or towable, right, or they're a nuisance and they're gonna get towed, they can't be connected, everything's gotta be inside the RV. And I think what we gotta recognize driving around town, even my own neighborhood, it's happening now.
That's right.
It's all,
And so our choices are
Right.
enforce it,
Or legalize it.
ignore it, or find a way to legalize it so that we have a handle on it. And I think what Dana's proposing is let's try to get a handle on it.
And it helps with tracking.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we'd need to look at, or at least consider, an additional vehicle, off-street parking or whatever. That, because if you got a couple people living in there, they both have a car, and all of a sudden you got 4 cars in front of a house.
We can look into all of that.
I got one more with the permit thing. Say that the owner then doesn't want the person there anymore. How does the eviction take place?
well, that would be up between the.
Sounds like
owner
a
and the-
personal problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, they got a permit from the city. How are we not liable in that situation?
Or does the permit go to the property owner?
It would go to the property
Yeah.
owner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It would be the property owner's issue to deal with if they wanted to remove those individuals from that RV unit.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm torn, but
I am
I know
too, but
there's
we
such
need
a
it.
crying need
we need
for
it.
housing. No, so maybe at the same time that we're looking at making concessions for this, maybe we can, there's a later on, there's a letter here. Maybe we can try to figure out a way to allow another apartment, already existing apartment in an industrial building. These are the kind of trade-offs. If we can look at one and make concessions, then I think we should be able to look at the other and make concessions. I'm not saying it's an either or. I'm just saying that,
Well, I'm in favor of staff bringing us a resolution.
Well, I was in California in December and I see these motorhomes and RVs parked along the streets. And that's where the unhoused are living.
yeah, they are.
So
They're in.
I'm
Coos-
in favor with
Coos
of
Bay and
this, but
Portland
you
and
have to
everywhere.
be careful
Mhm.
to make sure that they know the person that they're going to be staying with.
So it's not going to be on public property then. They're
No.
not going to be parking
Yeah.
along the streets because that's really the problem. It's over in. Coos Bay.
No, I
This is written out pretty well where it says, they need to be within the property lines, need to be within 3 feet of the property lines, can't be within line of sight.
Yeah,
And we can keep all the same restrictions that we already have about we have a whole
Yeah.
section in our code dedicated to how to park an RV. Those can all remain. It would just be, temporarily lifting the restriction on the length of occupancy.
I think we should, because like Dan says, they're there anyway.
Yeah.
And so far, we haven't had that much problem.
No.
If we were having problems caused by these units, but I don't think we are
I think generally people who are breaking the rules are trying to be hush hush about
Right.
it. So
Do we currently have a fee with those permits that
what was the
the
question?
permits that we get? Is there a fee incorporated with that?
What
June
permit are we talking?
for RV permit?
Yeah.
For the 1 month.
Month residential, it's $100.
Okay.
But for the 30-day, once a year, there's no fee.
Oh, okay.
That's what we should start doing, is using those fees to raise those fees.
Well, but then they're gonna be charging the person that needs it. I don't know.
Well, they'll get it from.
Well, I think that, I mean, really. No one, if you can't rent it out, right? No one has any incentive to let an RV park in their yard unless it's family or a close friend or, right? It's not gonna be a,
And particularly
I-
not if they have to
I
pay
use it.
$100.
Mhm.
yeah,
The price, you know, and then they're not gonna be able to charge anybody.
That's what I'm saying, with a smaller fee, it kind of keeps some of the riffraff,
Yeah.
yeah.
but
Yeah, I think we can use the permit form that we already have. They don't take a lot of time. I mean, the only reason we charge on the other one is that we have to notice when it's related to a construction project. So I don't think it would take a lot of staff time enough to warrant setting a fee
And
for
they
it.
have to be licensed, don't they? Like a car.
Yes,
Yeah.
So make sure the
legal licensed, movable.
license doesn't
So-
expire while they're still on the property.
If we pass a resolution like this, are we gonna be approaching the existings for them to fill out the paperwork to get a permit?
I think we
Richard?
could. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a list from over the summer when we went around and looked. So we have a mailing list already of people we think are occupying BRDs. And then we have a couple others who have asked about more long-term RV living that we can contact.
Could take the form of an amnesty program.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The RV park out on Beach Loop that has parking, monthly parking for RVs and mini homes, $700 a month.
Oh, yeah.
That only includes water and
Yeah.
sewer.
And I think a lot of the RV parks, they're dictating the age of the
Yeah.
home.
Mhm.
They don't even let the older ones. I mean, I feel sorry for somebody who's forced to live in one and then if it's too old, they can't get into a park.
Mhm.
You know, that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, they want it to look nice. They don't want it to have all those broken down vehicles in there, those
Well, but
old travel.
they're not
trailers.
driving around anyway, most of them. I mean, they're not coming and going. Well, maybe they are. I've
Maybe
never
the
been in
city
an
will
RV
start
park,
an
I haven't
RV
either.
park.
but
Huh?
I think also what I've heard anecdotally is that they fill up in the summer. So there's a lot of openings in the winter for long-term, but a lot of times in the summer, those RV parks want more turnover.
yeah.
So this could end up being something that we do seasonally too. You know, as we need more employees in the summer often. Just an idea.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the resolution.
All right. So you don't need a motion?
No, we'll bring it to you back.
All
We'll
right,
bring it
thank
back.
you. All right,
Next.
resolution 23-02 natural hazard mitigation plan update.
Sorry you're having to hear
Oh,
from
that's
me.
you. Okay.
So often this
All right.
evening. I have one more.
Dana show tonight.
I
Right.
know.
Yeah.
All right, so the natural hazard mitigation plan, I believe Coos County first started doing it in the early 2000s. So we've been working on these for a number of years. They are good for 5 years. Our last one expired in 2021. So Josh is probably aware of this. They've been working on it now for three years, I think.
about 2.5, yeah.
2.5, there you go. So a lot of what is included in here for you is just the abandoned section. You can read the full NHMP online. But what this includes is all of the projects, the mitigation plan projects that have been in the works, and they provide a little update on where we're at and how we'll continue. So we're asking you to adopt this updated version this evening. And just so you know why we're doing it, there are a number of hazards that are listed in there, including tsunami and earthquake, flood, wildfire, windstorm, all these things that could potentially happen to us. And if we needed to apply for any sort of federal hazard mitigation funds, we would have to have an adopted
Okay.
plan.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Including drought.
yeah. Drew.
In fact, when to apply for hazard mitigation grants for water, it's important that we get this adopted. It's a criteria to get many of those grants.
Okay, Madam Mayor, make a motion to approve resolution 23-02, adopting the updated 2023 Coos County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second,
Been moved by Madeline, seconded by Brian to approve resolution 23-02. All those in favor? Unanimous.
That full plan, by the way, is 700 pages.
Yeah,
We did not clog your packet.
Thank
The
you
full
for
thing.
not, yeah, thank you for not sharing that.
you
with
had
us.
mentioned that before, that if you weren't gonna print it, if you wanted to see it go online.
It's crazy. I've been doing the one for the port and it's,
Wow.
the whole plan is long.
All right, The next one is planning fee update.
Yeah, this is.
Me again. So we talked about this at your last work session. I brought it to you with a couple changes here. The big one is that we've increased the planning department hourly rate from $95 to $125 after asking around. We're on the like medium to low side. So we did increase it based on the fact that our salaries go up every year. Our costs here at City Hall go up every year, the administrative and overhead costs. We did add some new fees. So we talked about fees for missed inspections or if we require inspections. Right now, we do these land use compatibility statement reviews. We don't charge for them, but we'd like to. The new address, newer change of address, code interpretation. The other one that we talked about at the work session that I added in were fees for the mobile food unit review. I looked around to see what other cities were doing. It's a little hard because most cities do just the annual business license, which ranged anywhere from like $75 to $105. But I did find some cities that did type 1 or type 2 reviews and they came in at 140, 204, 105, 200, 147. So we based our type 1 review on what would be 1 hour of staff time, $125. And then the type 2 was sort of the average for all the other type 2 reviews that we're doing with. Got to remember what number we put in now.
Dana, type 2 is a pod.
For the pod, yeah,
Okay.
there would be noticing involved in a more intense site plan review that would require other departments to weigh in. And finally, the last thing would be that deposits are now base fees and non-refundable. I did look, most other cities are doing that
I was
as
about
well
to say,
in
yeah,
our
that
area,
up.
yeah.
Good.
So again, we just tried to right size those fees. We did lower some and raise others, and
Okay.
so we're just looking for a motion to approve.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve resolution 2303, updating the planning fee schedule.
A second.
Been moved by Madeline, seconded by Josh and Chris, that we approve resolution 23-03. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, now, is there anything in the consent agenda that anybody wants to discuss? And I guess Dave Reed's letter is not part of the consent agenda. It's
What should it have been?
It's part of public comment. I
public
think.
comment. Okay. Anything then that anybody,
I'm curious, did everybody read the 6.1.1, January 10 and January 23rd meetings?
I did not.
what is it?
Point it out to us. What do we need?
I'm just curious to see how many, because I got a duplicate and somebody must be missing one.
Of what?
I got a duplicate too.
Yeah.
Of what?
Well, I got a duplicate of this January 23rd. So I'm figuring somebody might be missing it. But maybe we all got duplicates. I'm just being myself tonight.
January,
He's just being Jerry.
all right, but what is she talking about? Would you? explain it to me?
Why do you not
Yeah.
understand what?
Because-
So there's
Two copies of the same.
copies for the work session.
January 23rd.
Oh, well, of course, I proof those, so I don't read them once they get into my packet. I don't want to see them again.
No,
I read word for word, right, Richard? So, all right.
Ooh,
Anything anybody wanted to? Oh, I know, I might have had a
Oh, I saw
question
something there.
about the planning department.
I was just looking at that.
Oh, the Port Abandon has submitted a pre-application for a new high dock building. Does that mean in place of the high dock building or?
Oh,
another-
sorry. No, the one that's there is staying. They're proposing another one to be constructed
Where?
further north of it.
So what kind of an impact will that have on parking?
We have not reviewed their application yet, so I couldn't tell you, but what I can say is that there is a pretty robust port abandoned parking plan that was created a number of years ago, and they did have, based on the last project that we did, an excess of parking in Old Town.
But realistically,
Really, that would be a no, probably.
I mean, realistically, when the market is going, you can see what happens to parking. So they might have it on paper, but in reality, so many people use the Fred Granite lot for parking
That's
and
gone.
We do have the new lot
Yeah,
that we built at that end of town,
a new what?
a new parking lot
Oh,
the station.
that the port did contribute about a third of the property.
one at the other end of town.
Yes.
And I saw a Tesla charging there the other day.
good.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought, so I was just curious whether this was a new high dock building in to replace the one that's already there, but it's north of there.
It goes,
Right.
it'll go right next to the Prowler Charter Building,
Oh, okay.
where Prowler Charters currently uses that for parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be
Prowler
as
Charters.
impacted.
Okay.
But it will go from about the electrical shed where it is next to Prowler's, down to where the crane is.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
all right.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Yeah.
Then moved by Madeline, seconded by Jerry to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, now we have public comment. All right, public, here's our public, our faithful public. Anybody? Well, I do want to bring up then, Dave Reed wrote a letter concerning, a vacant apartment in a building that's, I guess it's zoned industrial up on the hill at the end of Fillmore and Rose Road. And I'm just hoping that some way or another, there could be something in our ordinance that would allow housing in an industrial zone if it was a conditional use or something. There's already 3 apartments there, and now they're the 4th one he built. And it's not rented because it's not allowed to be rented. And I'm just hoping that we have such desperate need for housing that we can put aside our whatever. And
I have a question, Dana. What is the different zoning between the lady that turned that industrial building by the museum into 2 apartments and his zoning at the top of the hill?
Nothing. The industrial zone allows up to 2 units.
Oh, just 2 units. I see. Okay.
well, with a crying need for housing and the fact that when you look at the word industrial zone, the chances there have been mills there, there were at least 2 mills there, log yards. This had been in the old days when we actually had that kind of industry here, that made sense to protect that land. That no longer makes sense. Where the chance of an industrial use like a mill or anything like that is long gone. And if we could turn some of these buildings maybe that are in industrial zones instead of just, decaying, maybe some apartments could go in there. I think we need
Well,
to
make
do
that available to
everything.
the owners of the buildings.
Yeah.
That they have that option.
So somehow I really want to, I've been trying to do this for over a year and I have succeeded not at all.
We're getting.
So I'm hoping,
over there.
I'm hoping that,
Dana, you're giving us a
no,
black
she's
stare
smiling.
again.
She's smiling. This
Oh,
is
she's
one
smiling
will
now.
give me the stare here.
I'll weigh in.
Thank you.
We can't sign off on it as under the current code.
Okay,
I looked,
change.
I pulled the file the other day. I was ready to do it and I just said I can't. There's just no way, given what the code says and what they said they were going to do at the time, that we can sign off under current code.
well, how come the other 2 have rented?
They can have 2. They can have 2.
Wants more.
And then Charlie apparently or somebody from the
Right.
state.
So the third one shouldn't have been there. Once she signed off on it, he built it. We're gonna, we let him do it because we signed off and we gotta honor the commitments that we made. So here's our proposal. We've been working on housing. Council adopted a work program in July of 21. Dana talked with Planning Commission about that last year. Housing, a large housing affordability kind of project is on the work program. We had hoped to get to it in the fall. The code cleanup took quite a bit more time than we thought, as did the accessory dwelling unit stuff, which was clearly a priority for the council. So that's wrapping up now. What it looks like is we will have a window late spring to run another code amendment. So what we're thinking about proposing is a kind of the low hanging fruit amendment. There's a few things that we can do on accessory dwelling units that we learned at this conference. Some things about setbacks and those sorts of things, like where do you put your ADU on your property? The way that our setbacks work sometimes make it almost impossible to do. Particularly if the ADU, if your house is facing one way and the ADU is facing the other way on a corner lot, some of those, so we can do that. We can propose something about allowing multifamily on industrial.
Okay.
There's a one-line amendment that's been drafted that says you could have up to 4, like a fourplex on a lot of a certain size. That would take care of Mr. Lindsay's problem and essentially allow the fourplex elsewhere.
Okay.
We do have one of the more permissive codes in the state in terms of where we allow housing, because we allow housing on commercial ground. Formerly as a conditional use, but now under new state law, housing is wherever you allow housing, you have to allow it under clear and objective standards. So, we have housing almost everywhere now. So we've got a lot of commercial land. I think we have land for housing. We can take care of Mr. Lindsay's problem and essentially allow somebody to do a fourplex on another piece of industrial land. On the notion of whether it'll ever come back or not, whether we do get approached by people looking for mill sites for hardwood mills. Industrial stuff does come up. Bandon is disadvantaged without natural gas as an energy source. But I'm kind of reminded back in the 90s when I started practicing land use law. There was a big push statewide to say, in the Willamette Valley, okay, the farmland is the flat stuff, right? Preserve that. That's the richest farmland in the world. But these hillsides, it's ridiculous. Put housing on the hillsides. Nobody's ever going to farm the hillsides, right? Well, guess where the Oregon wine industry ended up
There
coming?
you go.
So it's hard to kind of say never when you want to preserve your land that's going to provide people potentially the family wage jobs that'll keep the families in town. So it's all a balancing act, but we can certainly come forward with something that opens the gate. Our plan is to do it in the sort of April to June or July,
Okay,
a July window.
because
I've already drafted it.
Because we
so-
have the jobs here. Our situation is unique because we have Bandon Dunes Golf Resort where they have 500 caddies and 500 employees. So the jobs are here. The parking isn't.
Mhm.
I mean, the housing. I was looking at somebody. The housing isn't here. Could we help you? Could- Oh, you're coming to the meeting? Okay, all right. Fine, thank you. Yeah, so I think our situation is a little bit different, is that we don't have to worry about providing jobs for a lot of people that need housing because they have jobs, they just can't afford to live here, so. Anyway, that sounds good, thank you.
You bet.
Anybody else did you wish to address the council because you're here right at the time when it says public comment? Are you?
Well, thank you. I was interested in beginning to learn something about the city's response to House Bill 3115. That's the mandate that municipalities and counties that.
That's about homelessness and where people can go.
Because we know that we have July 1st? We
July.
have a July 1st deadline. We have not addressed that, so. But you're more than welcome to sit in and listen. Yeah, you missed an hour. We have been talking about things like that, but you're an hour late, and our meeting's probably not going to last much longer. But anyway, we appreciate you being here.
Exactly.
Okay. Dana?
I have nothing else. I think you've heard from me enough tonight.
Okay, Shayla? Dan?
A few things on the housing front, I'll pass on. On what we call the central site, the site we're working on with the Bandon School District, zone change is coming up this month, right? Zone change will be happening this month. We're having weekly conversations. I'm having weekly conversations with Mr. Heisel, chairman of the school board. We're talking to developers, we're talking to consultants and advisors. We're still trying to find the best way. What's going to be the best way to get this done? We did get some exciting news. Last week, I had a conversation with an attorney in Portland from a large firm who had worked on a project for another resort town he wasn't able to name yet, that did a really fascinating blend of public, private, and nonprofit work and financing to have workforce housing for this resort community with no rent, landlord risk, or real estate risk to the public employers. And yet the public employers retained the right to, through a tenant nomination agreement, to actually control and actually rent some of the units out to their employees. So it's kind of an exciting mix. We'll see how it plays out. We've had some tough conversations with, I'll tell you, Bandon is attracting a lot of attention, the property that Mr. Kaiser bought just because of his name. We're attracting a lot of attention from a lot of developers, modular home builders. People are interested. They come by once a week or once every couple of weeks, kind of looking for an inside track. We're finding though it's tough. Housing is just tough and it's expensive wherever you go. So we're gonna find a project. We're gonna find a way to do it. It's going well. The 17-acre site, we've got some other ideas now about working with the legislature on some of the governor's housing goals, potentially using that to leverage some concessions on the wetlands issue, so more of that property becomes developable. But we continue to look at that site as a place for affordable home ownership.
Mhm.
We want people to be, if we can take care of the workforce rental for the most part in this central site, let's get families living here in Bandon. And it may be as simple as building a nice manufactured home subdivision
Right.
that looks good, that's got yards, that's got some parks. That product can probably come in and be affordable to workforce families in Bandon. So that's a pretty exciting development. I continue to be frustrated with our wetlands consultants, but we'll see what we can get leverage wise from the governor. We got some not great news about the 48 unit apartment complex.
I was gonna ask that.
They're still interested. They still own Mr. Ablack still owns the property. What's happened is interest rates and construction costs have gone up so much that the per unit or per door price has gone up about 50%.
Wow.
So they're looking at other options. They want to leave that because they've done the work, right? They've gotten their conditional use permit. They're approved. You're going to leave that there. We're going to work with them to make sure that their entitlements remain active. But they are going to potentially look at some other housing opportunities and commercial opportunities on that site, plus the larger piece they have. It wasn't great news, but we let them know, we're interested and we're here and we'll keep in touch. It wasn't great news, but it wasn't surprising either. We've heard the same thing from the grocery outlet people, that interest rates are making these projects just harder to do. So that's my report.
All right, Brian.
Yeah, just to illustrate Dan's point about it's happening everywhere. I got an interesting text from my sister a couple days ago about my childhood home where I was raised up until I was probably 11 or 12 in Westport, Connecticut on Imperial Avenue. It was just a little 3-and-2 house with a detached garage and a little shed in the back. It just closed this last week for $1,750,000. And it's like, still have a childhood friend there that I forwarded it to, and he says, Brian, you wouldn't believe it. He says, his family owned a famous restaurant in Westport, right across from the railroad tracks, New Haven Railroad. Commuters would go into New York every day. He says, I can't even afford to live in Westport anymore. And he says, I can't even live in Norwalk. He says, I'm living out in the country somewhere. He says, it's just gotten ridiculous. So it is, it's bad everywhere. Anyhow, Dan, any idea how long it's going to be before they get all that rerouting done down in Old Town?
I don't know. They're making pretty good progress, though, it seems. You're talking about around Chicago where they're doing the ADA,
Yeah, the whole
that
thing.
whole thing, the bulb out and stuff. I don't know. We can find out.
Yeah, I remember ODOT. It was about a year ago they were talking about it.
Oh, yeah. It was supposed to be part of that whole ADA project they did last summer, but
Yeah, I thought that they might have forgotten that corner, but I guess they
you
didn't.
know. I did make the illegal right turn, though, I have to say. I
Oh, did
missed the turn. I went, nobody's looking, not illegal yet. There's no sign, but
That's true.
the soon to be illegal right turn.
Yep.
I'm done.
Jer?
Yeah. I don't like driving at night, especially in Bandon because it's so dark. But with Tim and the group putting in those dots along the road, they're very, very good to see. Thank you. He's doing a good job.
What road?
Any road, especially on Beach Loop.
Not on my road.
Well, they're getting there. They're not all, but it's just so dark at night.
Yeah, it is. I don't have much to say, but on building costs, I just read into a prime example. Last year, I replaced a double pane window in my house. It was $500. The same people that did it last year, I just got a quote for $1,200 for another one. Exact same size. So yeah, it's just insane out there when you have to replace something or build something or it's ridiculous. That's it.
Oh, my property story, since Brian brought it up, is the house across from the cheese factory with a big two-story house survived the fire, as did the small house next to it. Now, that was my childhood home. I think my dad sold it to me for $1,500 quite a few years ago. Well, my partner and I sold it about 8 years ago for $125,000. And the people just turned it and they got $439,000 out of it. And the people aren't even living there. They're just second homeowners from Medford. So once in a while they're down there. So that just gives you an idea of what kind of money's coming in here and what they're willing to pay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that house was old when it was built. We think it was built by W.J. Sweet, the banker, at the turn of the century. So it's one of those that did survive the Bannon fire, and it was already 36 years old at the time of the fire. So it's an old house, but 439,000, we were shocked. Another thing, have you heard anything about the Kaiser's Hotel?
Yeah.
Is he going to proceed with that, or have you heard anything?
Dana's probably heard more recently than I have,
I
or she remembers better.
I know, I was gonna say, I think I've heard that they were still pursuing their building permits, but they were intending to put off for a year. So we're
Well,
looking.
they already put it off for this year.
Mhm.
And I noticed, I've just found out that they withdrew their application to build the golf course, and yet
Yeah.
they got permission from the Coos County Planning Commission. I know that Oregon Coast Alliance, would be Cameron LaFollette, they protested and saying that they were taking 93 acres of prime cranberry land out of production. But,
Isn't it loaded with gorse?
well, yeah, anyway, they have withdrawn, according to the county planning department, they have withdrawn their application, so there is going to be no, what was it called?
Golf course south of town.
Yeah, but I was trying to think of the name of it, New
Pacific-
River, the
Pacific- New River.
New River Golf Course off of Boak Road.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, unless the property goes clear down to New River, I don't know where they got the name New River because it's quite a ways south of there, but it does access off of Boak Road. So anyway, that's apparently not going to occur.
For the
And that's
time
all I really have to say.
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
Good.
I'm so glad you're open, Chris.
Me too.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess that's it. We don't have
You're
an
good?
executive session. I
No.
guess,
We are done.
thank you. Next time, come at 7. Okay. Is Bill Russell your dad? Oh my gosh, I didn't even know he had any kids.
Right.
He lives right around the corner from me. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just right. Yeah. Yeah, if you went straight down the street, you'd run into my neighbor and then I'm the one that way. Yeah. So how's he doing? I saw him at the post office the other day. How old is he?
Yeah. Jeff?
Well, so we've been.
So I'll pick that even and make back a word. Get back to it. And then we'll. The date on this. Yeah, no, on yeah. It has a date on the temporary construction, he's gonna have it. I don't know, we'll fix that. I'll fix it back there.